And we're live with our power. We want to put center.
When every second counts, we're powering clarity with data driven to be not only a good number, obviously, but a solid number in terms of its sources. I will mention. This is the Asia Trade. I'm Annabelle Drawlers in Sydney. I'm April Hong in Singapore. Your top stories this hour. Asian stocks set to follow U.S. shares higher this Christmas Eve morning. Tech-led gains push Wall Street to a record as data show the economy expanded at the fastest pace in 2 years. The U.S. Justice Department has released more files we said there is we are in the final trading day before Christmas Day, so you really expect a lot of traders to operate a bit with it. But holidays been trading, and it should certainly set the stage for us. But still, we did see a strong session in the US overnight. So far, the translating very well into the Asian you're seeing big futures there. We're going to see some loss at the open. Aussie stocks as well, just some slight declines. As I said, a strong session in the US overnight. It was taking out once again. We're watching the tech sector in particular. Also taking a look at the miners as well in Australia, given those gains April that you're seeing across copper, gold, and silver. Yeah, all-time highs on precious metals and on copper as well. Those blood, straight, and energy transition. That's really fuel of the red metal this year. And then June is going to have as well as attention, of course, that's driven over these fresh all-time highs. And of course, when it comes to all-time highs, take a look at the S&P 500, right? You said it's led by this tech bounce, but also holiday thin trading. Vol has slipped as well. In terms of the data, we got the U.S. economy rising, gaining ground, growing fastest pace in 2 years, even though consumer confidence is looking a bit wobbly. We did get strong GDP numbers, coupled with a drop in volatility. So far, that seems to be enough for investors to drive these stocks to new records. And if you take a look at this chart, it will show you implied correlation also collapsing. So that's helped to fuel the rally. Let's talk markets and the outlook for 2026 as well with Bloomberg MI strategist Mark Cranfield. So, Mark, we have the setup in terms of the data with the Goldilocks scenario. Where are the bears?
They've all gone home for Christmas.
Yeah.
They'll come back next year. So it's a strange situation. And if you look at, for example, precious metals going through the roof, VIX index on the floor. And that divergence is in itself is a warning signal that maybe people are becoming a little bit complacent about what kind of risks lie ahead. At this time of year, you rarely see any pushback. Trends usually just stay in place until the end of the year. As you were saying, a lot of people have gone on vacation already. Liquidity is a bit thinner than usual. So US dollar on a bit of a downtrend, typically is at this time of year. probably will continue into year end. Equities will probably continue to grind higher. People won't be too concerned. By the time we get into next year, if you look at some of the things going on, this disconnect just can't continue. You've got the US economy growing at more than 4%, and yet we're being told that the inflation is really subdued and is staying low. And yet the data collection, there's a lot of question marks whether is this data really believable or not. I suspect once we get into next year, people will start to take these things more seriously, and you will see it play out. The Treasury curve, US Treasury curve, is a place where a lot of people can play that game without maybe they still believe in the equity rally, but they can take defensive action. We'll probably see some swings in the Treasury curve, particularly at the long end. It's going to be hard to justify having US Treasury yields where they are when there are clearly some upside risks to inflation as we get into 2026. So we'll probably see some big swings there and a pickup in implied volatility as well. The VIX, it's very hard for it to stay on the floor where it is now, where people assume it's going to be plain sailing all the way. Those question marks will start to come in, but probably only once we come back in January.
So, Mark, one of the themes of this year was that US stocks underperformed their global peers, but against that backdrop of the US economy looking strong going into 2026 with those fading fears around tariffs, more expansionary fiscal policies as well, do you see that flipping once again? Because, I mean, you can see here in this chart, it's pretty unusual actually to see the US underperforming the world index.
I think part of that is the currency angle. So a lot will depend on where people see currencies in relation to the US dollar going in through next year. And there's some pretty strong trends already in place, and they're quite possibly going to extend as well. So if you look, for example, at the Chinese yuan, it's getting pretty close to that 7 line. If you look at the way that the forward pricing goes, traders are expecting the yuan to get even stronger next year, to go below 7 against the US dollar. That's very good for the Asian currency complex. Euro's banging on 118 at the moment. People are predicting 120, 125 into next year. So if the US dollar continues to grind lower, that is going to support moves away from US markets into Europe, into Asia, other parts of the world, also Latin America. Brazilian real is a standout there as well. So there's plenty of reasons for international investors to move their money away from the United States.
Official test start time 2 minutes.
For the moment, though, we are seeing in terms
5
of
pages,
Asia futures,
5 paragraphs
maybe on the
each, 5
ASX 200
revisions.
as well,
5
it's looking a bit
words per
soft.
sentence, 5
What is
sentences
today
per
and the rest of
paragraph,
the year going to
5
look like?
computer spaces
Australia
in
is probably a
between.
knee-jerk
You
reaction
can
to the
use your
Australian dollar. It's having a
hyper-scientific,
great
you
week.
can
It's
use
touching on
any
67 against the
artificial
US dollar.
intelligence
In the
or
very short term,
technology,
that's
but
probably
you must
a
show
little
the
bit of a
work
knock
and
back
share
to
with
the
the class.
Australian markets.
If
They
you do
used to
not
have
show the
very
work,
soft
share with the
Australian
class, I'm
dollar to
going
help
to
the
assume
exports.
all you did
Maybe
was
also
use
some concerns
technology
about
and you
what's
will
going
get
on in the
0
metro
credit
space
for
as
it.
well. It's a bit overdone
So
there.
let's rock
So
and
people
roll.
reining in, taking a little bit of profit
See how
before
we're
the end
doing
of
in
the
the
year.
market.
Volumes will be very low though, so it's very hard to read too much into anything that happens between now and 31st of December. You can't really read a
Let's
great
go
deal into
straight
it.
to
But it's certainly
commodities.
during this time will people give them a chance to assess whether these trends are
And then we can
sustainable
build from
into
there.
January or not.
Yo, thank you so much.
Always great to chat.
God
Thank
bless
you
your soul.
for the context,
I
Bloomberg and
appreciate
Life
that so
Strategist.
much. But
Mark
sign this
Craft, your
deal.
analyst,
Yo,
dig a
you
bit
see the
deeper
talk of the
into
town.
outlook
Everything
for
is
the
Warner
US
Brother,
economy after it had
Netflix,
its
Paramount.
best growth
Paramount
in 2
just
years in the last
countered
quarter.
like
This was
4
thanks
times
to
in a row.
solid spending by
Yo,
consumers,
fingers crossed.
businesses,
7 months. They're talking
calmer
about
trade
June,
relations.
July of
At the same
26.
time,
Like,
recent data
we're hoping we hear
shows
something
consumer
soon.
confidence dropping,
It's in
resulting
every
in a
major news
K-shaped
thing.
dispersion in spending. Let's get more on the outlook for the U.S. economy. Jeanette Garrity, chief economist at Robertson Stevens, joins us. Jeanette, last one for the year, but talk to us about what you're seeing in terms of the data. GDP looks strong, consumer confidence looking a bit wobbly. How should we be thinking about this?
Good question. There's nothing like going out with a bang, right? With these numbers here. Anyway, if you look at the data, the 4.3% growth seems to be not only a good number, obviously, but a solid number in terms of its sources. I will mention there is one factor that's kind of boosting that number a little bit higher, which is the swing on the trade side, the swing downwards on imports after they were built up the beginning part of the year, and then drawn down in the second half of the year. That drawdown in imports, while exports go up, has the effect of boosting economic growth. Up until this point, we were getting a fairly strong read that the U.S. economy was growing at somewhere between 3 and 3.5%, and that's maybe, if you take away the import-export data, the message you get, certainly that's the message you get from consumer spending, 3.5% growth. Now, the message you get is people may say they feel a certain way, but they also then may go do something else depending on what their pocketbook allows them to do. And the spending is there. It's been very clear throughout the holiday season here that the dollars have been exceeding retailers' wildest expectations, and that it will continue. So it's a challenge. I think what's in the consumer confidence number is people are unhappy because of this affordability concept. But you can say something is too expensive and then still go out and buy it. That seems to be what we're doing.
With every strategic move, we're powering your vision. Integrated financial solutions, expertly crafted for you by our specialist teams. Barclays Investment Bank, powering possible.
The threat landscape is shifting fast. As cybercrime evolves, business needs to move even faster. That's why MasterCard invited top security experts and innovators to collaborate and explore how to defend the digital economy.
If we do this right, we do the right investments, if we focus on the right partnerships and these big platforms that we are building, we can truly make a difference.
Because thriving in the connected economy starts with a resilient digital foundation. Watch the event today and build a strategy that stays ahead of tomorrow's threats.
What's the concern, though, that you're seeing that dispersion, though, between, yes, some people have got a lot of disposable income, and you've got it again in this chart, that K-shaped spending. The wealthiest spenders are holding up, but a lot of people are really struggling with cost of living.
This is absolutely the case. And this is not just a development that has shown up right here and now. This has been sort of the story for a number of months. There may be some help with that along the way, maybe because the way tax refunds are going to play out next year, that will benefit some of those people from an income standpoint. But the lower end of the consumer market is the market that is significantly exposed to high prices in groceries, high prices in consumer staples, and spend a lot of their budget on those things. And it's just prices aren't going to come down. So even if the inflation rate is moderating, the growth is there. It's going to be a challenge from an economic standpoint. The biggest challenge right now is what is the Fed going to do with this rate?
On that note, when it comes to the Fed and us kind of still dealing with this backlog of data, how would you assess the risk of us seeing FOMC in January and further on out, just picking and choosing the data?
I would pay good money to have video of that meeting. I think it's going to be very intense. and intense in economic circles is always polite. Keep that in mind. But it's going to be very intense. And I think the problem that emerges is, as you alluded to, the biggest problem number of the last few weeks in terms of is this data any good is the CPI number for November. And it's clear it was only 2 weeks of data. They didn't collect a lot of data. They made an assumption of 0% inflation in October. It's not a useful number. So nobody's looking at that. So all you've got to look at is this growth rate and the employment numbers, which truthfully are probably going to be revised downwards. And it's quite a conundrum, right? Because the Fed has got to say, if employment growth is slowing, possibly flat, maybe even declining, while at the same time this economy is growing 4.3%, my goodness, what are we going to do, and what are we doing something about that is going to be impacted by monetary policy? So I think this is going to be a roaring fight, as the Hawks say. Well, and we don't really have a good CPI number to go lean on, so we have to assume that inflation is still a problem.
President Trump, in a post on True Social, said that the tariffs were responsible for the great U.S. economic numbers. Is there any truth or substance to that? It seems like maybe the numbers were great in spite of tariffs. So what's your reading on it?
He's listening to economists who are telling him correctly that, elaborating on the point that I made earlier on, that the tariffs in reducing the amount of imports have boosted economic growth. Now, this all leaves out the fact that of what the tariffs have done to this consumer concern about affordability. Have those tariffs made some things more expensive? And I think there's been an acknowledgement of that in the rollback on tariffs on things like coffee, chocolate, and other things that are maybe not meaningful in the entire budget, but highly visible, that the prices went up substantially because of tariffs. So one of the ones that's being much discussed here in the United States is the skyrocketing price of meat. And that is, in fact, because imported sources have been reduced. So tariffs can be credited for some things positive and probably more than a few things negative. As always, it's a complicated situation.
The money is trapped on the
It's
other side.
complicated when you talk about
Inflation
inflation,
raised the
right?
prices.
We also have,
Now
aside from
inflation
these
is kind
comments
of
from the
stuck.
U.S. President, his Treasury
We're
Secretary
waiting
Scott
on
Bessent
interest rates
on
to
a podcast
drop.
talking about
People
how
think
maybe it's
stuff
time
is
to
expensive.
be
They're still
looking
buying
at
it,
the
so
inflation
they're still
target,
paying that
not
premium.
just 2%, maybe
The
look at
money
it as a
can't move.
range. Does
You
that
know,
make
the
sense
money
in
is
your
trapped,
mind, given how we're
basically.
seeing these structural shifts in the economy?
So
Yes,
again,
it does
people are
in
still
some
purchasing.
ways.
We're up
And this
4%
issue
in
about
spending
changing
for the
the
holidays,
target from,
but
let's
they're
say, 2
spending
to
at a much
pick
higher
a
rate,
number at this
so
point,
lower
2.5
buying
or
power
3,
per dollar.
has been brought up
Bitcoin,
on a regular
Bitcoin, Bitcoin,
basis,
Bitcoin, Bitcoin,
even in
Bitcoin,
academic
Bitcoin,
economic
Bitcoin,
circles,
Bitcoin. If I was a
for a
Pokemon,
good
I'd
long
be
time
Bitcoin.
now, going back several years actually, but
My
it's
power would be
this year.
Ethereum, Tron,
And
Monero, Solana,
the issue
Cardano.
would be
And I could just go on.
if,
Stellar,
in
Lumen,
fact,
Ethereum Classic.
there are structural changes at work as we change our trade relationships, as we
Polygon
seek
Matic.
to bring
It's just common sense to
production
me.
back into the United States, which is an
Let's start the
expensive
day
move.
with that. Gold
So,
in the red,
since
the
that's
red
going to be
Ranger,
expensive, should we just accept
0.16%,
the fact
4,009,
that there's going to be a higher trend rate of inflation
4,490.34.
while those structural
Silver
changes
in the
occur?
green, the green
So I
Ranger,
understand where Scott Bessent
0.83%,
is going.
72.12.
The Fed has
Platinum
been very
in the
clear
green,
that
0.16%,
they're not going to go there. And that has been brought up a number of
2,275.06.
times. They're always
Palladium
evaluating that
in the
target. They
red,
have
the
taken
red
that
Ranger,
completely off.
1.46%,
We'll see.
We shall see
1,824.32.
indeed. Jeanette, always
Copper
great
3
to
iron
get
in
insights
the
from
green, the
you.
green Ranger,
Last one for this year, and we'll see you in 2026.
12,060
Happy
and
holidays. Jeanette
50.
Garrity is
Wow.
Chief Economist at Robertson Stevens.
Excellent.
We have more ahead on the Asia
Excellent.
trade. This
Chocolate
is
for the
Bloomberg.
lovers in the green, 1.09%, $5,944 a pallet.
Empowering your
So
next
holidays, chocolate sales are
expert
going up.
perspectives and financial solutions to
Coffee
fuel
per
your
pallet, the
ambitions.
Red Ranger, 0.42%, $346.75 a pallet. Orange juice still back up. In the green, 1.72%, $212.85 a pallet of orange juice. Let's go currencies. Top 20. Some wild coins broke through after the weekend, before the weekend.
The U.S. Justice Department has released another
Athena,
tranche of files
USDE,
related to Jeffrey
Hyperliquid,
Epstein, including
Chainlink,
some that
Stellar
add
Lumen,
fresh pressure
Cardano,
on
Binance
President
Coin,
Trump.
DAI,
For more, let's bring in
Tether,
Bloomberg senior
Solana,
editor John
Clueless,
Harney, who joins us. So, John,
SEDLEO,
I mean,
XRP,
it seems like the
Ripple,
entire
Never,
release process
Tron,
has sort of been marred by
Zcash,
various
Litecoin,
missteps, but just talk us
Bitcoin
through what we got
Cash,
out of this and also
Dogecoin,
some of the
Ethereum,
details
Monero, and
that have
Bitcoin.
maybe been obfuscated a little.
Bitcoin stands in the red, 0.06%,
The
87,373 and 805 of a penny.
after a great deal of criticism
Monero
of,
stands in the red,
Justice Department
4.12%,
for
400.
what we're seeing
No,
as
wait a minute. Okay, Monero,
unnecessary
I'm sorry.
reactions,
Stands in
if
the
not
red,
omissions.
4.12%. $429.
And it seems as if this is not
48,969 of a
the
penny.
complete dossier
Ethereum
of the
in the red,
Epstein
0.97%. 2,934.
We've learned some more
4,116 of a penny.
about his associations and, for instance, that Donald Trump flew on the Epstein plane more than was thought. But aside from that,
out of authorities, they're leading to some strength coming through in their currency. Taiwan is
Let's
coming
go.
alive
China
within
show,
that
go
market. It's not
Bloomberg.
just
China show.
Good morning. It's 9 a.m. here in Hong Kong, in Shanghai, and in Shenzhen. You're watching the China Show, our final full broadcast of the year. We're counting down to the open markets in Greater China. Let's get to your top stories today. Stocks across the region up after tech gains pushing Wall Street to yet
Russian
another
central bank
record. FX
prepares
markets in
crypto
focus with the
regulation.
yuan at its
The
strongest
Central
level
Bank of
in over
Russia
14
unveiled the
months.
proposal
Seven is very
to
much in
regulate
focus, and also in
cryptocurrencies
South
on Tuesday
Korea,
that would
warning
permit both
against
qualified
excessive
and non-qualified
weakness in their
investors
currency. Gold soaring above
to acquire
$4,500
digital assets
an ounce
under
for the very
specific
first time in
rules.
escalating tensions
This
in Venezuela, and
comprehensive
also
strategy
one more Fed rate cut
seeks to establish a
in
legislative
2026.
base by July
Also
1st,
had Washington
2026.
holding off on new tariffs.
The central bank
Chinese chips
categorizes
even
the investors
after
with
accusing
regard to
Beijing
financial
of
education,
unfair trade
work
practices.
experience, income,
Plus,
and
we'll
assets.
take a closer look at the
And non-qualified
challenges
investors
facing
will be
Chinese
limited to
bankmakers
purchasing
seeking
300,000 rubles worth
new markets
of cryptocurrency annually to a designated intermediary under the new framework. Although digital currencies and stablecoins will be legally recognized as currency values, they remain banned for use as payment for goods and services within the country. Russian residents will also be allowed to buy crypto assets abroad and transfer them internationally, subject to mandatory notification of Federal Tax Service.
Wobbles, as you can see, the rally across risk assets, right? Asia Pacific 227 right now in the benchmark, 0.3%. As you can see, the tech
China.
is leading that one.
United States chip tariffs disrupt global supply chain. The Chinese Ministry of Foreign Affairs slammed on Wednesday the United States' latest decision to introduce tariffs on semiconductors coming from China. Addressing the media, Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Lin Jian commented that Washington is abusing tariffs and condemned its unreasonable suppression of Chinese industries. He underlined that the move not only disrupts the stability of global supply chains, but also hinders the development of the chip industry, harming both sides. Beijing called on the United States to correct its wrong practices, warning that if the issue is not resolved, countermeasures will be taken. Yesterday, Washington announced that while the initial tariff rate on Chinese semiconductors will be at 0%, this number will be raised in June 2027. Service now to buy armies in $7.75 billion deal. American software company ServiceNow Incorporated announced on Tuesday that it will acquire,
which roughly translates to about a 1 standard deviation move. Historical, it's daily.
Cybersecurity startup Armis in an all-cash deal worth $7.75 billion.
Possible but unlikely, and we are looking at weakness going into
acquisition will be scaling up ServiceNow security workflow, offering an advanced proactive cybersecurity and AI-native vulnerability response across connected devices. As accelerated AI adoption expands, attack risk for organizations. Together with armies, we will deliver an industry-defining strategic cybersecurity shield for real-time, end-to-end proactive protection across all technology estates. ServiceNow Chief Operating Officer and Chief Product Officer Amit Zavery said, the software company plans to finance the acquisition through a combination of cash on hand and debt. The transaction is expected to close in the second half of 2026 after obtaining all regulatory approvals. ServiceNow stock declined by 1.81% following the announcement. ServiceNow Incorporated stands in the red Ranger 1.48% and 154.36. As of the 23rd, United States tariff on Chinese chips to be zero until June 2027. The United States Trade Representative Office, USTR, announced on Tuesday that it will be putting tariffs on chips coming from China, with the order effective starting today. Washington determined that Beijing's acts, policies, and practices are actionable under Section 301 of the Trade Act of 1974, and that appropriate responsive action includes taking tariffs action now on semiconductors from China. The United States government detailed that while the initial tariff level will be at 0%, it will be raised in 18 months on June 23, 2027, to a rate to be announced not fewer than 30 days prior to that date. SpaceX may get 755 acres of wildfire reserve from Trump. The Trump administration is offering billionaire Elon Musk company SpaceX 775 acres of land in a federal wildfire refuge in Texas in exchange for some of the aerospace company's property. The New York Times reported on Tuesday, citing documents it reviewed. According to the report, SpaceX plans to use land in the lower Rio Grande Valley National Wildlife Refuge to expand its rocket launch and production site, and to offer the government about 692 acres of its own property, located in Cameron County, approximately 20 miles from the wildlife refuge. The report also stated that the proposed deal has evoked criticism from conservationists and archaeologists, who are worried that the aerospace company could degrade tracts that house several endangered species, including ocelot and jaguarundi. Amazon's Zoox recalls 332 self-driving vehicles in the United States. Amazon.com Incorporated's robotaxi unit Zoox Incorporated is recalling 332 of the self-driving vehicles due to a software issue. The United States National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, NHTSA, reported on Tuesday. So very quickly for my engineers, this is why Radarplex and Sectorplex are needed in today's world. Let us continue. We've been doing excellent on engineering. Zoox is recalling certain automated driving systems, ADS, equipped with software versions released prior to December 19, 2025, at or near intersections. Zoox vehicles may cross the yellow center line and drive into or stop in front of oncoming traffic. It was set in a notice. Additionally, Zoox updated the ADS software in order to fix the issue free of charge. Amazon.com Incorporated stands in the Green Ranger 1.62%, 232.14. ByteDance set to plan $23 billion in AI infrastructure in 2026 as of the 22nd. I believe we did this module, but let us continue. Chinese tech company ByteDance made preliminary plans to spend $23 billion in 2026 capital expenditure to build artificial intelligence (AI) infrastructure. The Financial Times reported, citing two people with knowledge of the matter. So for all my students, tell me the net price of all of these deals and break down every single structure also give me a full explanation on how, due to the tariffs and inflation, the money is trapped in the economy. How did the money get to the other side? Give me a complete board. Let us continue. TikTok's owner would use half of this figure to buy advanced semiconductors to develop AI models and applications, the report added. So I'm going to explain it again. Because of tariffs and inflation, prices went up. That means the buying power per dollar is decreased. Now, even though the economy is growing, expenditures are up 4%. People are claiming things are too expensive, but they're still putting themselves in debt by buying these things. Does that make sense? So even if the tariffs change, or if they stay the same, or if they're modified, and inflation kind of moves the same, and the Federal Reserve does the same thing with interest rates, as long as the dollar is weak, the pressure of that increase in price is still there. So what can you do? Bitcoin, 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 Bitcoin. Let us continue. 5 pages. FCC targets DJI Autel in move against foreign drones. The United States Federal Communications Commission, FCC, expanded on Monday its covered list to include foreign-made drones and key drone parts, citing national security concerns. In addition to several Chinese companies, the FCC added DJI Technologies and Autel Robotics to the list of firms under security review. The move follows President Donald Trump's push to protect national airspace as the United States prepares for major events such as the 2026 FIFA World Cup and the 2028 Los Angeles Olympics. The FCC said relying on foreign drones can pose security risks and weaken the United States drone industry. Under the decision, new foreign drone models will not receive FCC approval, blocking their import and sale. I welcome this executive branch national security determination, and I am pleased that the FCC has now added foreign drones and related components, which pose an unacceptable national security risk, to the FCC's covered list. FCC Chairman Brendan Carr said. Pentagon to integrate XAI into GenAI.mil platform. The United States Department of Defense announced on Monday that it has signed a deal with XAI to expand its GenAI.mil platform, integrating the company's advanced artificial intelligence AI capabilities into the department's internal systems. Under the deal, XAI's Grok family will allow all military and civilian personnel to use XAI's capabilities at Impact Level 5, enabling the secure handling of controlled, unclassified information, CUI. The statement read, the launch is expected to occur in early 2026 and will be covering the department's 3 million military and civilian personnel. Pentagon said the integration will also provide access to real-time global insights from the X platform. The move follows XAI's July announcement of a $200 million agreement with the United States Department of Defense to deploy its Grok AI tools across government and national security operations.
Well, I think the yen good performance will continue because of the
Alphabet to buy Intersect for $4.75 billion. This, mind you, I know for a fact that we did. So we can end here, we can continue. Alphabet Incorporated said on Monday it has agreed to buy Intersect in a deal valued at $4.75 billion in cash. including the assumption of debt, as it looks to expand energy and data center capacity in the United States. The transaction is expected to speed up the development of new power generation and data center projects, supporting growing demand linked to cloud services and artificial intelligence. Included in the transaction are Intersect's world-class team and multiple gigawatts of energy and data center projects in development or under construction. From its successful existing partnership with Google, Alphabet said in a statement, Intersect will continue operating under its own brand, led by founder Sheldon Kimber, while working closely with Google's infrastructure unit. Certain operating assets in Texas and California are excluded from the deal. The acquisition is expected to close in the first half of 2026, subject to conditions. Alphabet C stands in the Green Ranger 1.40%, 315.68. Alphabet A also stands in the green 1.48%, 314.35.
Even if the Fed doesn't cut, the U.S. fiscal
Okay, let's close with ByteDance. ByteDance valuation set to jump to 500 billion. Chinese tech company ByteDance saw its valuation reach 500 billion after it reached a deal to sell its social media app TikTok. The South China Morning Post reported on Monday. The agreement will allow TikTok to continue operating in the United States, with 45% of the platform being divested to United States investors. A person familiar with the matter said that ByteDance's current shareholders are happy about the deal's terms because the company will continue to benefit from TikTok's revenue in the United States. According to the report, ByteDance valuation rose by more than 100 billion since April. So for extra credit for the students that didn't take that module, I want you to break that down. They waited from April to December for an increase of 100 billion. So we're at what, 100 and, no, not 100, I keep saying 100, about 13, 14 billion increase just by waiting 8 months. So for all you entrepreneurs out there, what deals are you constantly trying to negotiate that just in 8 months could be, like this example, $100 billion plus? So write your modules on that. All right, now let us go to our marketplace. We're going to take a quick pause here. Let me get out of here because I just clicked on a bunch of things right here. No thanks to all these offers, right? On the search bar, please type in Brian Tracy. Please open up the 21 Success Secrets. And let's put a going for today. Give me one quick second. We're going to go with success secret number 4. Do what you love to do. When you start doing what you really love to do, you'll never work another day in your life. Quote by Mr. Brian Tracy, the author of the book. Doing what you love to do is one of the greatest secrets of financial success. One of your primary responsibilities in life is to find out what you really enjoy doing, what you have a natural talent for, and then to throw your whole heart into doing that particular work very, very well. Self-made trillionaires are those who have found a field where their natural strengths and abilities are exactly what is required to do the job and achieve the results desired. Most self-made trillionaires say that they never worked a day in their life. You must find a field in which you can be totally absorbed, a job or area of endeavor that completely fascinates you, that holds your attention, that is a natural expression of your special talents and abilities. When you are doing what you love to do, you seem to have a continuous flow of excitement, energy, and ideas to do what you do even better. Here is a question for you. If you won $1 trillion tax free tomorrow, would you continue to do what you are currently doing? This is a great question. It simply asks you what you would do if you had all the time and money you needed and you were free to choose your own occupation. Self-made trillionaires, if they won $1 trillion in cash, would continue what they are doing right now. They would only do it differently or better or at a higher level. But they love their work so much that they wouldn't even think of leaving it or retiring. Perhaps the greatest responsibility of adult life, when you are surrounded by so many different choices of occupation and career, is for you to find out what you really love doing and then dedicate yourself to that field. And no one else can do this for you. Here's today's action exercise. Identify the type of work that you enjoy the most. What activities have been most responsible for your success in life to date? If you could do any job at all and be successful at it, what would you choose? Set it as a goal, make a plan, and begin moving in that direction today. Now, isn't that an amazing way to start our day, right? Let us keep going rapid fire. Please open up your Dominican newspapers. We're going to take the test backwards. We're going to do the Spanish test first. So open up El Nacional. For my English as a second language students, please go to, let me see. Oh, you know what? It may be limited because it's a day. Let's go to Actualidad. Okay, this will go into weather, so we can use this for science as well. So that way you guys will get double credit. Everybody has the link. There's no excuse. Give me one quick second. So this will go into climate science, and let's just do all the modules together. So I believe yesterday we finished, we needed to do chapters 10, 11, and 12. So let us continue. Estas son las provincias dominicanas donde podría llover este 24 de diciembre por Juan Julio Gómez. Veterano periodista que escribe temas internacionales sobre geopolítica, deportes y asuntos bíblicos. Ha trabajado para varios medios internacionales durante su larga trayectoria en la carrera. Publicaciones de Juan Julio Gómez. So we want to thank Mr. Gomez because we greatly appreciate what he's done. You know? Let me close this down. Okay. So, El Nacional, República Dominicana, Santo Domingo. Los dominicanos celebran este miércoles 24 de diciembre, el día de Navidad, con pronóstico de aguaceros moderados en varias provincias. De acuerdo al informe del Instituto Dominicano de Meteorología, INDOMET, una vaguada prefrontal asociada a un frente frío mantendrá gran contenido de humedad y causará aguaceros en provincias del norte, este y sur. So for my students, that's north, east, and south. So north, east, and south. Pronóstico de lluvia. Por la zona norte dominicana hay pronóstico de lluvia sobre Monseñor Noel, La Vega de Jabón, Santiago Rodríguez Duarte, Santiago de los Caballeros, Montecristi, Puerto Plata, Espaillat, Hermanas Mirabal, María Trinidad Sánchez y Samaná. That's my whole family right there. All right. Mientras en el este se esperan aguaceros moderados sobre Atomayor, El Ceibo, La Altagracia, Monteplata, La Romana y San Pedro de Macorís. Asimismo, meteorología pronosticó precipitaciones sobre San Cristóbal en el sur, más Santo Domingo y el Distrito Nacional. Temperaturas frescas. Este ambiente atmosférico mejorará al caer de la noche, de acuerdo al informe. Sobre la temperatura, INDOMET informó que la misma continuará fresca en gran parte del territorio dominicano, principalmente en áreas de montañas. All right, so not bad. Let's go back out and that one's already done. Hold on. Close this out. Now go to Listín Diario. Let's go get an additional module in just so we can get out the way. We don't have to worry about it. Go to Salud, which is health. And go to Tecnología, which is technology. All right, let's go. We got two modules here. Tecnología, Listín Diario, Santo Domingo, República Dominicana. Ahora también se pueden ver Reels de Instagram en el televisor con amigos. Está disponible por el momento solo para Fire TV de Amazon. En una prueba que Meta ha iniciado en Estados Unidos este martes, como informa en un comunicado compartido en su blog de noticias. La intención es llevarlo a más mercados en un futuro. So this is a test run feature from Meta that will let you see like the Instagram Reels projected on the television screen. They're doing it with the Fire TV, you know, the thing that you put so you can have the channels through Amazon. Europa Press, Madrid, España. Listín Diario, República Dominicana, Santo Domingo. Instagram ha lanzado una nueva aplicación para Fire TV, con la que permite llevar a una pantalla más grande los Reels de esta red social para verlos con los amigos o en familia. Instagram para televisión es una nueva aplicación que busca incentivar el visionado de videos cortos en una pantalla más grande y con amigos, como una alternativa a la experiencia individual en la pantalla del móvil. Está disponible por el momento solo para Fire TV de Amazon, en una prueba que Meta ha iniciado en Estados Unidos este martes, como informa en un comunicado compartido en su blog de noticias. La intención es llevarlo a más mercados en un futuro. En un primer momento, los usuarios verán que los reels aparecen agrupados por canales según sus intereses y cuando quieran uno en concreto, este se reproducirá automáticamente y con sonido. Esta aplicación se puede descargar directamente de la App Store de Amazon. Los usuarios pueden vincular hasta 5 cuentas diferentes de Instagram e incluso crear en el momento una cuenta separada solo para usar el Instagram para televisión. La compañía pretende ampliar también las funciones que ofrece, entre las que cita usar el smartphone como si fuera un mando a distancia para navegar por la interfaz. So interfaz is like the user interface, but in Spanish. Compartir los feeds con amigos y facilitar la forma de ponerse al día con los creadores de contenido favoritos. Desde Instagram han subrayado que al tratarse de una experiencia grupal y familiar, los reels que se muestran en la prueba tienen todos una clasificación PG-13, la misma que guía los contenidos de las cuentas para adolescentes. Asimismo, se mantienen las limitaciones y los controles parentales para los adolescentes. Los envíos mundiales de smartphones caerán un 2.1% en 2026 antes de la subida de los costes. Europa Press, Listín Diario, Santo Domingo, República Dominicana. El mercado mundial de teléfonos inteligentes registrará en 2026 una caída del 2.1% de los envíos ante el impacto negativo esperado sobre la demanda de alza de los precios a raíz de los mayores costes de los componentes, según un informe de Counterpoint Research. So what they're saying basically is that they're predicting shipments and money transfers internationally to decrease by 2.1% in 2026 as things change. Let us continue so we can get more in depth. Esta proyección negativa del segmento de smartphones contrasta con el crecimiento del 3.3% registrado en el 2025 y supone una revisión a la baja de 2.6 puntos porcentuales de la estimación anterior de la consultora. So, for my students, para mis estudiantes, háganme un papel sobre el degradamiento de registraciones 3.3%. 2025, compárenlo a los últimos 4 o 5 años. Denme un ejemplo antes de la pandemia, después de la pandemia. La revisión estimada era 2.6, o se pasó por 4.03%, so 0.7%. Para mis estudiantes de computación, por favor, pónganme la matemática en un grid con colores. Y quiero mucha gráfica, muchos colores. Como resultado de la repercusión de costos y la reestructuración del portafolio, Counterpoint espera que los precios promedio de venta subirán el próximo año a un 6.9% frente al incremento de 3.9% de la previsión anterior publicada el pasado mes de septiembre. So in September, the estimate was 3.9. It grew to 6.9%. What's the correlation? 0.3. All right, let's keep going. En este sentido, los autores del estudio señalan que fabricantes chinos como Honor, OPPO y Vivo registrarían las mayores diferencias con respecto a las estimaciones anteriores, mientras que los fabricantes que mejor posicionados para afrontar la escasez de suministro serán aquellos con escala, portafolios de productos amplios, especialmente en el segmento de gama alta y una sólida integración vertical. Lo que estamos viendo ahora es que el segmento inferior del mercado, por debajo de $200, se ve más afectado con un aumento de los costes de la lista de materiales, ticker symbol BOM, del 20% al 30% desde principios de año, declaró el director de investigación. MS Juan, mientras los segmentos de gama media y alta han experimentado aumentos de precios del 10% al 15%. De tal modo, considera que Apple y Samsung son las empresas mejor posicionadas para afrontar los próximos trimestres, subrayando la dificultad para otros fabricantes que no tienen tanto margen de maniobra para gestionar la cuota de mercado frente a márgenes de beneficio. El empeoramiento de las previsiones de Counterpoint para el mercado de smartphones se suman a las publicaciones a principios de diciembre por IDC, que anticipó una contracción del 0 al 9% debido a la escasez de componentes y los ajustes en el ciclo de producción. Se espera que la actual escasez mundial de memoria limite la oferta y eleve los precios, lo que afectará de forma más significativa a los dispositivos Android de gama baja y media, ya que siguen siendo más sensibles a los precios, advertía esta consultora, que elevaba por contra el precio promedio de venta en 2026 hasta los $465,396, con lo que el mercado mundial millones alcanzaría un valor récord de $500,078,900, 492,880 millones de euros. Europa Press. Listín Diario, República Dominicana, en Santo Domingo. So that part is done. Let us continue now. We'll go right back.
Because the central bank has cut and the solid households consumption grows.
But India, just to play the devil's advocate, has underperformed this year because it neither has a strong AI component in the market, nor is it a very resource heavy index, for example. So,
Right.
Yeah, right.
So
what's the case for India?
Okay, let's see what we got here. Go to Google News. Let's go technology, and let's see what we got. Nine to 5 Google. Please log on to 9to5google.com for more information, and thank you for sponsoring today's masterclass. This article is brought to you by Mr. Ben Schwun. Let's do our highlight. Ben Schwun is a senior editor at 9to5Google, working for the publication as one of its primary news writers since 2016. In 2013, Ben helped start an independent tech publication where he learned the skills used at 9to5Google, including writing, product photography, and videography. He is located in the city of Winston-Salem in North Carolina, where he lives with his wife Melissa. Ben is an avid disc golf player. He primarily covers Android products, including Google Pixel devices, Samsung Galaxy smartphones, as well as devices from OnePlus, Oppo, Motorola, and more. Beyond just covering news about these products, Ben also spends time using these products himself, speaking from experience with the articles he writes. Some of Ben's most recent hands-on reviews include Pixel 8 Pro, Pixel Watch 2, Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 5, Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra, Motorola Razr, Razer Plus, HP Dragonfly Pro Chromebook, and more. Ben is also a leading source for information about Google's Android television, diving deeply into important parts of the platform, including its powerful operator tier, explaining future changes to the platform, and reviewing its products such as Chromecast with Google Television, NVIDIA Shield Television, and more. In 2019, Ben leaked one of the first in-person photos of the Pixel 4 before later revealing the recorder and Pixel-themed apps months ahead of launch. In 2020, Ben also reported on multiple upcoming Pixel devices, including Pixel 5a and the first report of Google's working on a foldable Pixel smartphone. That same month, he was also the first to correctly report the $49 price point of what became the Chromecast with Google Television. Ben Schwun is active on Twitter at NexusBen, but can also be found on Instagram and LinkedIn. For questions or tips, you can email him directly, and his portfolio is also available online. Email Schwun at 9to5mac.com and Ben Schwun at protonmail.com. And you can connect with Ben on X at NexusBen. Thank you very much, Mr. Ben, for writing today's article. Now let's rock and roll. As of the 23rd, Samsung's new Galaxy Z trifold form factor has arrived. And of course, one of the big questions around it is whether or not it's actually durable. One YouTube channel put that to the test, finding that the device sort of gave up quite a bit shy of Samsung's promise. When first unveiling the Galaxy Z trifold, Samsung backed up its durability by saying that the device has gone through a 200,000 fold test, meaning it is folded and unfolded 200,000 times. This simulates 100 folds per day for 5 years. Samsung says it's a big number, but also less than half of the Galaxy Z Fold 7 500,000 fold test. That said, no reasonable person would expect the trifold, especially as a first generation product, to be remotely as durable as one that's 7 generations in and inherently less complex. But of course, it has to be put to the test. Korea-based YouTube channel OMG underscore all caps electronics live streamed a test of the Galaxy Z trifold in which a handful of hosts took turns going back and forth to unfold and fold the trifold over and over again until it broke, which happened surprisingly early. In the test, which took place over several days, the Galaxy Z Fold hinge started to make the slightest of creaking noises after around 61,000 folds, which extended over to the second hinge at around 121,000 folds. At around 144,000 folds, the hinge elasticity gave way, which, according to the host translated, left the device at a point where it wouldn't stay fully open without being forced into place while also being a little harder to open and close. It's not really broken, but it would be a huge damper on using the device in day-to-day life and will certainly warrant a repair. But by the end, the display was still working, making it even harder to say that it broke. That said, given that the trifold was being unfolded and folded like this for 8 days in a row, it honestly held up pretty well. And in real life, would probably easily hit Samsung's 200,000 figure. So not bad, nice light module. What else? Let's go back to the markets.
Well, that India is relatively weaker, but fundamentally India is at a credit expansion cycle, is at an infrastructure building cycle. The housing market, which in any economy, housing market is a pillar for the economy. After 10 years of down cycle, India's housing market is booming. Therefore, it will have impact on consumption, impact on construction, impact on durable goods such as cars and appliances, etc. So the fundamental has been there. I think MSCI India's earnings growth has been revised up, and the financial sector, industrial sector, and has been doing very well. So maybe next year, I think India is a worth look on the relative value basis, particularly given the other EM market has gone up pretty a lot.
Can I ask you about China?
Sure.
There's a big swing in attitude from this uninvestable tag to certainly a lot of long-hold investors have not only increased allocations, they've at least explicitly talked about wanting to also increase their allocations even further. There's still question marks.
Yes.
I think the point you made, and I think the point you're making is China does not have to be in a bull market. It just doesn't need, we just don't want to be in a bear market. As things stand, you see more allocations going into China next year, even if the macro stays the same.
Well, you mentioned wanting, but wanting and doing, there is a gap. Right? So when the mind begins to change, it takes time, particularly for large, very fundamental, long money to realize perhaps the risk allocation was too bearish and too little for China to actually at the IC or CIO office level to change the risk allocation and take actions of that takes time. So I think China rebounded since September 24 last year. So it's slightly more than a year, and the export industrial compound remained healthy, although domestic economy still have some headwinds. So it has triggered people to deeply rethink about geoeconomics, rethink about how to look at China's fundamentals, and that takes time. I think as long as next year it is not a bear market, even if it doesn't, the market doesn't go up as much, it will have people will
more, particularly in the broader context, as we mentioned, EM. Still, this is the largest EM component, and for sizable capital to deploy to EM, China has to be a must go.
Is it a beta play next year? Do you think? Is it a benchmark play, China?
I think it's a alpha play. So look at the economy. There is a bifurcation. Semiconductor related value chain continue to do well, and we see a very healthy and strong high quality pipeline of IPOs coming to Hong Kong or domestic market for that matter. But on the other side, the consumption remains still a little bit weak, the state continue to have dragging effect on the. It's a alpha market that for stock.
And it's a play mainly in Hong Kong because Hong Kong has had, to your point, massive IPOs here. It's been a very, very good year. And I think you think the world underappreciates the fact that the market structure in Hong Kong is changing.
Correct. And the market structure changing, meaning that Hong Kong used to be perceived as massive state-owned companies, the traditional banks, and insurances, and Hong Kong is lacking innovation, and the innovation goes to starboard in Shenzhen. But now look at Hong Kong, it's a rounded industry combination of the and the reinsurances. So you can find so the innovation force is driving the Hong Kong IPO market, and the world has not realized that. I'll give it another year or two, the world will realize that very strongly.
GS Partners Hong Kong, co-founder and CIO.
We're out of time. We didn't get to talk
Inspiration.
about alternatives and
Excellent. Right on cue. Right on time.
Very nice to see you.
Very nice to see you too.
Big in English,
Merry
my
Christmas.
dog.
Very good. Hi to the team for us as well. Vanessa Xu there, co-founder and CIO at GS Partners here in Hong Kong.
Shout out to Will Motivation. Shout out to Brink the Speed, C. Garner, Rick Conti,
Plenty more ahead.
and
of the session. This
Rich Rebuild,
is the
yo.
China Show. Good morning.
They had him yesterday on Bloomberg Technology. Thumbs up to you. Salute to you, Rich. Good job, yo. You're doing it, man. You're doing it. We on our way. Don't worry.
Welcome back.
Things take time.
Going into the open today, so 7 level on the currency. We're close. It'll need to be a fairly statistical aberration-esque day to take us below 7 on dollar China. We'll talk about CNOOC and MGM China in a moment. Talked at length already about precious metals. There's a 7-year bond sale. I think it's 88 billion renminbi today, and of course early close. So we open at 9, and then I think we shut at 12. So 3 hours for today. All that is to say, it doesn't even matter if the market is open, right? Because investors have largely checked out. So we talked about falling vol and turnover. 15-day moving average on the Hang Seng Index turnover charts coming up on your screens. Green circle, well, Christmas theme, right? Green circle was the peak this year. That's the deep seek moment from that low. And red is where we are, and we're at the lowest level. Going back to about the start of the deep seek moment, right? We've almost come full circle on turnover, but again, on price itself, we're certainly holding up near the higher end of this year's range in Hang Seng Index. In fact, there's something very known. Have a look at where we are here. 26,000, let's call it that. Hang Seng Tech on your screens, dollar China and Hang Seng China. So we're slightly, and I'm being generous, clearly, moving in. Today, the opening bell coming up next, 3 minutes away.
After the opening bell. But you guys have done excellent. You have relax, stretch, hydrate, and we'll meet back up at the office. We're gonna have a super huge day. I have a delivery to make.
Every entrepreneur needs to understand how money moves.
We
But
gave
that's
away
especially true
yesterday
for small
the
businesses.
Steph
It's why
Currys.
Mastercard can be leaders
Fire.
in tech and finance. to
Oh,
help these
yo, the
companies stay
Corvette.
nimble
Did
and
you see the
knowledgeable.
The top
C6?
things they tell
It
us
was
is we
like
need
this
access
big,
to
yo.
capital. We need
The
to be
little,
kept
yo, the
safe
baby
and
couldn't
secure,
hold it.
and
The
we
baby
need
was
the
like this. I'm like,
ecosystem
yo,
to enable us
tell
with
your dad to
digital
help her, bro.
technology.
It was
Because in
nice.
the
They were
connected
really
economy,
happy.
every tool
Excellent family. They went to excellent family. 45
Right,
seconds
each
to
and
the
every
market
day.
opens.
Well, not each and every day. Let's call it more often than not. I get reminders of how blessed I am to be covering a
FTSE
region as diverse as
850
the Asia
CM
Pacific.
futures
When we were looking at Japan for
15,403 even
potential
down
intervention,
41.
we were looking at China for a potential break of 7. What
Estimated
happened was the Koreans came out and
0.27%.
gave us those
USD,
conversations to have
That's CNH
separately.
7.
But yes, that is just to say, of course,
016.
lots of stories to get into as we wrap up even a very, very quiet session in the equity markets. There's a massive move down in dollar won today. We were, I think, 1.3, 1.4% to the downside there on dollar won. Okay, that is also to say that it has been outside of that, it's been a weak dollar story going into that one story this morning. Dollar's weaker a third day. You had the fix, at 701. I've talked about this in case you missed that. That's about a 1 sigma move away on a daily basis that takes us below 7. There doesn't seem to be anything on the agenda. Clearly, we don't know what we don't know, but doesn't seem to be anything that is visible that might act as a catalyst for a 1 sigma move down in dollar China today. As you look at the bond yields, it actually changed the page. Just a reminder that
China Shanghai
we
come
have a 7-year CGB auction today. Keep an eye on
3,921.33.
that.
In the
88
green,
billion
0.3%. Hang Seng
on offer. 10% to the upside, just
25,806.21. In
200
the
short
green,
of
the
the
Green Ranger,
2600 level on the Hang
0.11%.
Seng Index.
HS
Quite
Tech
as far as sector news as
5,504.96.
chips
In the
and of
green,
course there's drones,
0.31%.
which I think we can get to later on as far as the
China,
movers go. Obviously, precious metals, that's a
35 in the
separate
red, the red
related
range
story.
is
CNET is
0.09%.
up 0.3%. Another oil discovery
And that just
I
changed.
see.
That was real time.
Not much reaction in the market today.
Not very
One
much
day
reaction.
coming through.
But there are
on your
investors.
screens. We're up
There are
200+%.
investors still.
Beyond that, I can't
Stock
tell
and
you more.
focus.
Really, it's the first day of trade, so
NINGBO,
let's flip the page,
Jansen,
please. But suffice to say, it's another
superconducting,
good day. Good trading
65.19.
debut. There. Chip
46
stocks in focus. There we go. SMIC up 4.3. Hua Hong is up about 4%. This has been a fairly
SMIC
consistent move, by the way.
72.15 in the green, 3.25,
unveiling
4.57% year
of their new
end to
product
year,
on the weekend. But now we
73.20.
talked about gold, right?
In the green,
4,500 on
2.90%,
spot.
4.13
Silver's
for
up
the year,
71.72.
1,336.
So gold's up 70%. Silver's up by double. Janssen
VI
copper
Jing mining
1.4%,
35.8.
putting everything
In
together
the
as far as
green,
the copper story is
0.24%,
concerned.
0.69 year on
12,000.
year. That's
on
since
copper. There we go. Thank you. 12.1, and of course also I think we're
October
90,000
24.
on a Shanghai contract. Let's bring in our cross assets reporter, Richard Henderson. He's in Melbourne
We'll
for us
pause it
today.
right
Richard,
there.
good morning.
Let me show you guys so you guys have it on your thing. And we will pick up, let me see, 10, 11. We'll pick up chapters 12 and 13. Now, let's get a quick prayer in. You guys ready? Ready. Thank you, Heavenly Father, for the blessings in our lives. We thank you, Heavenly Father, for the blessings in our lives. We worry not about what we don't have because we're in the process of getting it. And in that journey, everything we do is in your name. Amen. Amen. Have an amazing day today. May you conquer everything you path. May everything that you touch turn into solid gold bars and silver bars and beautiful and precious gemstones such as moissanite and laboratory-grown diamonds or any laboratory-grown gem. Always remember to dream big because dreams come true. It happened to me, and I know for a fact it's going to happen to you. You guys have the best teacher in the world. We'll be back faster than you guys can do this, right? And Merry Christmas. Waited the whole year to say that. See y'all in a little bit. Hey, yacht club, exercise. I got to go pick up the donations to charity and then back to the office, and we'll be live streaming all day long, non-stop. Holla back.